All right, let's talk about one of the most frustrating engine codes a Nissan owner can face, the P0335. If that's why you're here, don't worry, you're in the right place. We're going to break down exactly what it is, how to figure out the cause, and how to get it fixed.
So you get in your car, the check engine light is glaring at you, you turn the key, and you just hear that crank, 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 but nothing. The engine just will not fire up. Man, what a stressful and frustrating situation, especially when you're trying to get somewhere. This is the #1 classic sign of the P0335 code.
So, what is your car actually trying to scream at you with this code? Let's go ahead and translate that warning light into plain English.
Okay, so the official fancy name for it is crankshaft position sensor circuit malfunction. That sounds kind of scary, but all it really means is that your car's brain, the main computer, has lost its signal from a really important sensor.
You can think of this sensor, the CKP, as being like the pacemaker for your engine's heart. Its whole job is to tell the computer the exact position and the rotational speed of the crankshaft. That information is absolutely critical for the computer to time the spark plugs and the fuel injectors just right.
And that right there is why this is such a serious code. If the computer doesn't get that signal, it's completely flying blind. It has no idea when to fire the spark plugs or when to squirt the fuel. So as a safety feature, it just gives up. It won't even try to start the engine, and that's why you're stuck there cranking away with no results.
Okay, so now that we know what the code actually means, let's connect the dots to what you're probably experiencing with your car. Let's look at the SOS signals it's sending out.
Besides that big no-start issue, you might see other weird things happening. Like maybe the engine just dies on you while you're driving. Or it has a really rough, shaky idle. Or it just feels gutless, with a major loss of power. Sometimes the computer will even throw the car into limp mode to protect itself. If any of this sounds familiar, you're definitely on the right track.
All right, we've pretty much confirmed the problem. So let's put on our detective hats and take a look at the usual suspects that caused this P0335 code to pop up.
So here's the lineup. And let me tell you, the vast majority of the time, the #1 culprit is just a bad sensor. It's just failed from age and heat. But you can't ignore the other possibilities, right? It could be something like damaged wiring, a simple blown fuse, or maybe even an issue with the little tooth wheel that the sensor reads. A bad computer is possible, but honestly, it is very rare.
So how do we actually nail down the true cause? Let's walk through the diagnostic process. And we're going to start with the easiest, simplest checks first, because who wants to make this harder than it needs to be?
Here is our game plan. First, just see if there are any other codes stored in the computer. Next, get a flashlight and do a really good visual inspection. After that, we'll check the fuse box. And finally, if you're feeling adventurous, we'll talk about how to test the circuit with a multimeter. Sticking to this order can save you a ton of time.
And seriously, don't skip the visual inspection. You're hunting for the obvious stuff here. The wiring for this sensor takes a lot of abuse from heat. So look for things like melted plastic, wires that are frayed and showing copper, or green corrosion on the connector pins. Sometimes the fix is staring you right in the face.
And here is a huge tip just for you Nissan owners. On a lot of cars, this sensor is right up front and easy to see. But Nissan, for some reason, they love to stick it at the rear of the engine, right where it connects to the transmission. Knowing that little fact can save you a whole lot of time searching around.
Now let's say you're testing the connector and you discover there's no power getting to it. Hold on. Don't just assume the computer's fried. That whole circuit is protected by a fuse, usually in the fuse box in the engine bay. Always check for a simple blown fuse before you start worrying about the expensive stuff.
So if you do get your hands on that connector, you're going to see 3 wires. What do they all do? Well, understanding their jobs is the key to testing the circuit properly.
It's pretty straightforward, really. You've got one wire that brings power to the sensor. Could be 5 volts, could be 12, it just depends on your specific model. Then you have a ground wire, which is just there to complete the electrical circuit. And that third wire is the signal wire. That's the one that sends a little digital pulse back to the computer every time a tooth on that crankshaft wheel flies past it.
So you've gone through all the diagnostics. The wiring looks okay, the fuse is good. Well, now we've arrived at the most common solution of all.
And yep, that fix is just replacing the sensor itself. Seriously, 9 times out of 10, maybe even more, after ruling out the other stuff, a new crankshaft position sensor is what will fix that P0335 code and get your car running again.
And of course, this leads to the big question for anyone thinking about tackling this themselves. Just how hard is it to swap this thing out?
And the honest answer is, it totally depends on your exact Nissan model. On some of them, it's a piece of cake. It's right there, easy to get to, held in with one little 10mm bolt. On others, though, oh boy, you might have to pull a wheel off or be working totally blind, reaching your hand in a tight spot you can't even see. It can be easy, or it can be a real pain.
And here is one final crucial piece of advice. If you do replace it, please don't cheap out on the part. Use a quality OEM part. Those super cheap aftermarket sensors you see online are notorious for failing, sometimes in just a few months, and then you're doing the whole job all over again. Spend a little extra for the quality part and the peace of mind.
So there you have it. You know the code, you know the symptoms, you know the causes, and you know the fix. You now have the full roadmap for tackling this Nissan P0335 code. So the only question left is, knowing what you know now, are you going to grab your toolbox or are you going to grab your phone?